Soul singer Marvin Gaye, whose career spanned over 25 years, including the birth of the Motown sound to the 80s, was shot to death yesterday in Los Angeles.
On February 22, 1976, the torment ends. Florence is found dead of a heart attack. A devastated Diana flies to Detroit to attend the funeral.
Detroit, once the holy land of black music, was where voices were born that could make the whole world fall in love. From here, Motown rose as a symbol of hope, a place where black artists could finally sing in a time full of barriers. But every light has its shadow. Behind the timeless songs and the radiant smiles on stage, something strange began to happen. Every star who left Motown died in pain and mystery. Some died young, some in loneliness, and some simply vanished without explanation. That list kept growing. 8 souls, 8 fates, extinguished in agony. Was it coincidence, or was there truly a curse cast over the most powerful music empire in America? And if it was a curse, who created it? 1. Tammi Terrell, the angel who never woke up. If there was a moment that marked the beginning of the tragedies known as Motown, it was that night in Virginia, 1967, when one of the sweetest voices of the label suddenly fell silent under the stage lights. From that second on, they said Detroit lost its purest soul. And perhaps, from that same moment, a curse began to crawl through that dazzling world of music. Tammi Terrell, the young girl from Philadelphia, was only 20 when she stepped into Motown headquarters in 1965. She carried something rare in the industry at that time: innocence and a smile that could light up an entire room. Berry Gordy saw it immediately, shaping Tammi into the Rose of Motown, the face of a new era when black artists were finally allowed to sing in their own homeland. And then fate placed her beside Marvin Gaye. The two became the voices of love itself, singing eternal duets like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, and You're All I Need to Get By. On stage, they moved as one, their gazes locked in a chemistry no one could fake. The public believed they were soulmates. Motown believed they were gold. But behind that perfection, Tammi was collapsing. She carried wounds no one could see, and no one at Motown wanted to mention. Before fame, she had fallen in love with David Ruffin, the lead singer of The Temptations, a man as magnetic as he was dangerous. That relationship was built on charm and ended in bruises. Colleagues recalled how Tammi often showed up with black eyes, a broken cheekbone, or layers of makeup hiding the violence. Once she discovered Ruffin had a wife and children, the devastating headaches began. Yet in Motown, every emotion served the image. Tammi was still put on stage, still smiling for photo shoots, still sold as Marvin Gaye's dream girl. She sang even when she had to swallow tears between applause. Then came the fateful night. October 14, 1967, during a concert in Virginia, Tammi and Marvin were performing Your Precious Love. As the music reached its climax, Tammi suddenly clutched her head, stumbled forward, and collapsed on stage. Marvin rushed to catch her as the band stopped playing. The crowd froze in silence. Many said the air turned cold at that exact moment, as if Motown itself had lost part of its soul. Tammi was taken to a hospital in Philadelphia. Diagnosis: a malignant brain tumor. She was only 23. Over the next 3 years, she endured 8 brain surgeries. Her once vibrant body grew frail, her trademark hair was shaved off, her radiant face fading to a shadow. While she lay still in her hospital bed, Motown kept releasing her old recordings, printing her smiling face on covers, keeping the illusion alive that Tammi Terrell was still here, still singing. No one outside the family was allowed to speak of her condition. Insiders later said Berry Gordy forbade the truth from being told. Motown can't have tragedy. A nurse later revealed that during one rare moment of consciousness in late 1969, Tammi held her hand, smiled faintly, and whispered, "I just want to sing again. Not for them, for me." It was the last thing anyone ever heard her say. Marvin Gaye visited often, singing their songs at her bedside. He believed that if his voice was strong enough, she would wake up. But miracles never came. On March 6, 1970, Tammi Terrell died at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. She was only 24. Her funeral took place on a cold morning in Philadelphia, a white coffin covered in her favorite roses. Marvin sang to say goodbye, but his voice broke midway, tears falling onto the coffin lid. After that, Motown went silent. No statement, no tribute, no mention of her name. Her medical records disappeared without a trace. Nurses claimed the hospital files were retrieved and no one ever saw them again. Tammi's death filled Motown with fear. A young woman full of life collapsing under the spotlight, gone without explanation. Some called it fate. Others whispered, "Anyone who leaves Motown never comes back." After the funeral, Marvin stopped singing for 2 years. He withdrew from the world, haunted by her absence, often saying that Tammi still sings to me every night in my dreams. And from that haunting, the world began to sense something dark, lingering over those who left Motown. A shadow, a cycle no one could escape. Tammi Terrell, the girl whose voice could melt any heart, became the first to fall in this chain of mysterious departures. And from the night she fell on stage, those who remained at Motown began to look at each other in silence, asking themselves, if even an angel couldn't survive, who could? 2. Florence Ballard, the voice erased from Motown's heaven. 6 years after Tammi's death, Detroit witnessed another tragedy. This time, no stage, no applause, only the silence of poverty and the slow-burning bitterness of the past. Florence Ballard, the founder of the Supremes, the first symbol of black women daring to dream big. In 1959, she, Mary Wilson, and Diana Ross formed the Primettes, singing in small Detroit clubs. Florence was the soul, the foundation, the one with the strongest, deepest voice, the kind that made people believe she would go the farthest. But when the Supremes entered the Motown era, everything changed. Berry Gordy, the label's mogul, saw not only talent, but a formula: beauty, image, and control. Diana Ross, with her Hollywood smile and soft eyes, became his focus. Florence, the leader who started it all, was pushed aside. From 1964 to 1966, the Supremes exploded nationwide. They sang at the White House, appeared weekly on television, sold millions of records. Yet, behind the spotlight, Florence was fading. In photos, she was moved to the back. In recordings, her vocals were reduced. She began drinking, grew volatile on stage, and Motown labeled her a discipline problem. By the summer of 1967, Florence was out. No press conference, no farewell, just a small payout to keep her quiet. Diana Ross was crowned Motown's new queen, while Ballard was erased. Still, she believed she could come back. In 1968, she signed a solo deal with ABC Records, releasing It Doesn't Matter How I Look. But radio stations, controlled by Motown's influence, refused to play it. The record failed. The press ignored her. In Detroit, people started whispering about the invisible wall that everyone hit once they left Motown. By the 1970s, Florence lived in poverty with her 3 daughters. She took janitorial jobs, sometimes sang in small local bars for a few dollars. Her tiny apartment on Buena Vista Street was cold, its walls covered with old photos. 3 young women under bright stage lights, holding hands. Neighbors said they sometimes heard her humming softly to herself. "Stop, in the name of love," but her voice was raspy and full of sorrow. Then the rumors began. Some said she kept a small notebook, the Motown Diary, recording things never made public: fraudulent contracts, Berry Gordy's affairs with female artists, secret meetings between white financiers and the black music empire. A close friend said that days before her death, Florence whispered, "If I ever tell them what I know, they'll never let me live." In February 1976, Florence appeared on a local TV interview. She looked tired, but smiled faintly, speaking softly, almost like saying goodbye. She said she wanted to return to the stage to sing for her children. Many believe she was preparing something new, perhaps a memoir. But that dream never came true. In the early hours of February 22, 1976, Florence Ballard was rushed to Detroit Receiving Hospital in cardiac arrest. Doctors tried to revive her, but she died at 3 a.m. at just 32 years old. In her purse, they found only a few coins and an old photo, 3 young girls holding hands under stage lights. The notebook she mentioned was never found. Her funeral was small, without a single Motown representative. No flowers from Berry Gordy, no condolences from Diana Ross. Only Mary Wilson stood by the casket, holding her hand one last time. They said when the coffin was lowered, the wind that swept through the cemetery sounded like Florence's husky voice, as if she still had something left to say. After her death, Detroit newspapers wrote, "Florence Ballard died of poverty." But those who knew her whispered, "No, she died because she dared to leave Motown." If Tammi Terrell was the star who fell in the light, Florence Ballard was the voice suffocated in the dark. One died of illness, the other of despair, both silenced by the same unseen hand. Since then, in the old Hitsville studios, engineers say the microphones sometimes pick up strange echoes, a faint, raspy female voice singing in the middle of the night. The older ones swear they recognize it. It's Florence Ballard. And that's when people began to believe that the Motown curse wasn't just a story. It was the voices of those who once sang, still restless, still unable to sleep. No 3. David Ruffin, the voice that fell from heaven. After Tammi Terrell's death, people said David Ruffin never sang the same again. Her passing became a dark mark in his mind, part grief, part invisible sentence. From the brightest star of the Temptations, he spiraled down through the years that followed, rejected, erased, and finally dead, under circumstances that sent chills through all of Detroit. David had once been the voice that made America fall in love. When he sang My Girl, people believed the very soul of Motown lived inside that sound. But behind the spotlight was another man, arrogant, unstable, addicted, and haunted by secrets that were never spoken. In 1968, at the peak of fame, Berry Gordy fired him from the group, saying he had become impossible to control. From that moment, David Ruffin's name disappeared from Motown, and the curse began to follow him. Without the stage, he drifted between Las Vegas and Philadelphia, singing in dark clubs, always saying, "They took everything from me." By the 1980s, Ruffin began telling friends about the dirty secrets inside Motown, the black money, the ties to the mafia, the singers who were silenced after leaving the label. One friend recalled, "David said he was about to write a book and expose everything. He laughed, told me not to worry. A week later, he was dead." On June 1, 1991, Philadelphia police found his body inside a parked Mercedes on a dark street. The doors were locked, the windows rolled halfway down. In his jacket pocket was over $2,000 in cash. Nothing stolen, no wounds, everything neatly arranged. The report read, "Cause of death, cocaine overdose." But those close to him told another story. Some claimed they saw David leave his hotel the night before with 2 strange men, never to return. A hospital worker said he was still breathing when brought in, but no one took responsibility, and the medical file was later sealed. The death closed in silence. No investigation, no questions. Motown said nothing. His funeral was held under heavy police watch. In a Detroit church, thousands stood frozen as his voice played one last time. Yet behind that solemn service, rumors spread like wildfire that Ruffin hadn't died from cocaine, but for revealing what he shouldn't have known. Journalists who claimed to have seen the draft of his memoir said it vanished, along with his typewriter and notebooks, just days after his death. No one knew who took them, and no one dared ask. But in Detroit's music circles, they still whisper that David Ruffin wasn't just a victim of drugs. He was the last man to touch what Motown had buried for 30 years. When My Girl played at his funeral, someone murmured, "He sang about love, but he died for the truth." And from that night on, Ruffin's voice was no longer the sound of soul. It became a chilling warning for anyone who dared to walk out through Motown's gates. No. 4. Paul Williams, The Shadow of the Temptations. Next came the sorrowful death of Paul Williams, the soul left behind. No lights, no applause, only a lonely man drifting into darkness, carrying secrets he might have known too well. And when he died, Detroit shuddered. It was called suicide, but no one truly believed it. Paul Williams was one of the founding members of the Temptations, the original soul of the group, the man who wrote the early songs, choreographed the dances, taught the others how to stand, bow, and walk onto the stage. He wasn't the lead singer, but he was the one everyone respected. When Motown signed the Temptations in 1961, Paul was the balance, the bridge between artistry and the label's strict discipline. But that balance grew fragile. Berry Gordy began placing all the spotlight on David Ruffin, then Eddie Kendricks. Paul, once at the center, became a shadow behind others. He sang less, appeared less, and was slowly pushed out of creative control. Friends recalled that whenever he drank, he would stare into space and say, "We created the soul of Motown, but Motown is stealing the soul from us." By the 1970s, Paul was unraveling. Liver disease from drinking left him weak, his marriage collapsed, his children left. Still, he believed he could reclaim justice. He told friends Motown had never paid proper royalties to the founding members. He hired a lawyer, prepared legal documents, and right before the filing date, he died. On the night of August 17, 1973, Paul Williams was found in the parking lot behind the 20 Grand Club, the same place he had once performed in his prime. He was sitting in his Cadillac, head slumped over the steering wheel, a gunshot wound to the temple. Police called it suicide by handgun. But nothing added up. The gun had no fingerprints. The car doors were locked from the outside. The shell casing lay far too far away for a self-inflicted shot. The family never believed it. A close friend revealed Paul had told him just 2 days earlier, "If this works, people will finally know what Motown really is." Yet the case was quickly closed. No further investigation, no questioning, only a few small news lines. Paul Williams, former member of the Temptations, dead by suicide. At the funeral, his former bandmates stayed silent. They stood before a hastily built wooden casket, candlelight flickering against an old photo. 5 young men in black suits, smiling brightly, with Paul in the middle, eyes alive, confident, full of life. No one mentioned the lawsuit. No one dared speak of the gun without fingerprints. Years later, the royalty documents he'd been preparing vanished without a trace. The lawyer who worked with him left town. No one could reach him. A former Motown employee revealed that right after Paul's death, the company suddenly changed its internal policies, terminating all old royalty disputes. Detroit still remembers Paul Williams as the man who carried the Temptations' soul. But those who knew whispered that he had touched what no one was supposed to, numbers, contracts, and secrets that could have brought the empire down. They said he shot himself, but the gun tells a different story. They said he ended his life, but perhaps someone ended it for him. And when that gunshot echoed across the empty parking lot, the soul of the Temptations faded with it. Ever since, whenever My Girl plays on Detroit radio, those who knew Paul shiver because they understand the man who once held that soul is gone, and with him, the truth is gone too. Number 5. Mary Wells, the queen who was silenced. When they found Mary Wells in her small Los Angeles apartment, she could no longer speak. Throat cancer had taken away the one thing she loved most, the voice that once shook America. They said she passed away quietly, but those who knew the truth said it wasn't a peaceful death. It was the end of a long punishment, a warning stretched over 2 decades, ever since the day Mary dared to leave Motown. Mary Wells was an icon, the first black woman in music history to be embraced nationwide. When My Guy hit the airwaves in 1964, Berry Gordy proudly called her the first queen of Motown. But just months later, he was the one who stripped her crown away. The reason was simple: money. Mary's first Motown contract was signed when she was 17. She never read it carefully, never had a lawyer. For years, every one of her hits, Two Lovers, You Beat Me to the Punch, My Guy, brought hundreds of thousands to the label, while she received only a few thousand. When Mary asked to renegotiate, Gordy refused. So she left, signing with 20th Century Fox, a move no one from Motown had ever dared to make. From that day on, Mary vanished from radio. DJs got an unspoken warning: don't play Mary Wells. Interviews were canceled. Magazines turned away. Every door in the entertainment world slammed shut at once. She once said, "They didn't kill me, but they made me die, slowly." After leaving the label, Mary survived through small gigs and short-term contracts. She was still invited to perform, but only as a name to remind audiences of the old golden days. For years, she tried to sue Motown for unpaid royalties, but every lawyer dropped out mid-case. A close friend said Mary kept a small box of old documents, her first contract and payment slips she called evidence. She told him, "If I disappear, look in there." But after her death, the box was gone. By 1989, cancer had appeared. Mary had to sell her jewelry to pay for treatment. She could barely speak, communicating only by writing. A nurse recalled that during her final nights, she often wrote a single phrase: "They silenced me." Her family believed it was directed at Motown because for years she had felt watched. Every time she tried to contact the press or a lawyer, her appointments were mysteriously canceled. Mary died on July 26, 1992, at age 49. The cause was listed simply as complications from cancer. But what was strange was that just weeks earlier, her condition had been improving. A friend said she had received a donation from fans and planned to move to Arizona for therapy. Suddenly, within 3 days, her illness worsened. When she was admitted to the hospital, she could no longer breathe. The medical file of her final treatment later went missing. Mary Wells's funeral was simple, almost silent. No representatives from Motown appeared. No wreaths from Berry Gordy. Only a few old friends and loyal fans stood around the casket, singing My Guy through tears. Some claimed that Gordy had sent people to watch the ceremony to ensure that no one mentioned the label's name. After her death, a journalist who had once interviewed Mary revealed that she had planned to release a memoir titled What They Never Told Me at Motown. The manuscript was never found. 1 month later, the office of her book editor was broken into, and the only thing stolen was the file related to Wells. The story ended like so many deaths before it, sudden, full of questions, and met by Motown's silence. No denial, no tribute, just absence, as if Mary Wells had never existed. Yet each time My Guy plays, those who once knew her say her voice carries a bitterness that never faded. Perhaps she didn't die only from cancer, but from a system that slowly suffocated her until her very last breath. 6. Eddie Kendricks. The man who faded away in exhaustion. Even more terrifying, that same year, the falsetto voice of Eddie Kendricks went silent forever. Detroit once again sank into fear. The names that had once lit up Motown kept going dark, one after another, and each time the same question returned. Was it truly just coincidence? Eddie Kendricks was known as the angelic voice of the Temptations. His tone was soft as silk, so delicate that an audience would hold its breath each time he hit the high notes. In Just My, Imagination and the Way, You Do the Things. You Do, people heard the romance of soul, the grace of gospel, and the quiet sorrow of a man who understood how unfair the world could be. But behind that gentle smile, Eddie had seen too much, things he would never be allowed to speak about. By the late 1960s, when Motown reached its golden peak, cracks had begun to form within the Temptations. After David Ruffin was fired and Paul Williams died, the group became a tool in the hands of the label's executives. Eddie could not bear how profits were divided without transparency. He demanded to see the books, to know why we sing while others grow rich. Berry Gordy refused. In 1971, Eddie left the group. He thought he was free, but he didn't know that leaving Motown never meant freedom. In the years that followed, Eddie tried to build a solo career. He toured, he recorded, but his name slowly vanished from radio, a phenomenon everyone who left Motown understood too well. Then in 1979, the IRS came after him. All of his property was seized for unpaid taxes. Eddie was stunned, since his accountant had been introduced by a former Motown employee. The tax files disappeared from court records, never to be found again. His Birmingham home was repossessed. Still, Eddie sang. Even when exhausted, even as lung cancer ate away at him, he stood on stage, hand pressed to his chest, his trembling voice fighting through the pain. In one of his last interviews, he said a line that shocked the press. "Motown is a velvet prison. It's beautiful, it glitters, but once you're inside, no one leaves whole." After his final concert in 1991, Eddie told a close friend that he felt he was being followed. He saw black cars parked near his house, strange men showing up at his shows, and once a letter arrived at his home already opened. He believed someone wanted to make sure he would never reveal everything he knew. In October 1992, Eddie Kendricks died in Birmingham, Alabama, after a short battle with lung cancer. The cause was listed as peaceful. But just before that, he had planned to release a memoir titled Behind the Temptation, revealing secrets about Motown's control over artists and money. The manuscript was never published. His funeral drew thousands. When Berry Gordy and Diana Ross walked in, the crowd booed. Someone shouted, "You killed him!" A witness said Gordy's face turned pale while Ross lowered her head and quickly left. No one from Motown spoke. There was no official statement of condolence. After the funeral, a close friend said Eddie had once given him a sealed envelope, saying, "If I die early, open this." But before he could, his apartment was broken into and everything in the safe was gone. That year, Detroit lost another child. Mary Wells died in poverty. Eddie Kendricks died in doubt. The last two stars of Motown's first generation faded in the same year, 1992, and with them an entire era ended. Yet, inside the old studios of Hitsville, people say the microphone still picks up a faint voice now and then, thin, high, and hauntingly sweet. They say it's Eddie, the last falsetto of soul, still singing in the night, as if reminding the world that the truth was never fully sung. No. 7. Marvin Gaye. The man who believed the curse was following him. If Tammi Terrell was where the curse began, then Marvin Gaye was the one who carried it toward its end. After Tammy's death in 1970, Marvin was never the same. He lived in seclusion, haunted by dreams, often saying he still heard her voice singing at night. "She hasn't left," he said. "She just moved inside me." From Motown's angel, Marvin became its rebel. He openly criticized Berry Gordy, accusing the label of exploiting its artists. His album What's Going On was born from that inner conflict, part prayer, part cry for help. But the more he sought freedom, the more isolated he became. By 1981, Marvin left Motown, carrying with him the memories of the lost souls, Tammi, Paul, Florence, Ruffin, and the sense that he would be next. In his final years, he hid in Europe, lost in smoke and hallucinations. Friends said he believed someone was watching him, that Motown never lets anyone leave whole. When he returned to America, he lived with his parents, drowning in paranoia and fear. On April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his own father after a heated argument. His death closed the final loop of tragedy, from angel to rebel to Motown's last haunted soul. They say it rained heavily in Detroit that night. In the old Hitsville studio, a microphone crackled to life, carrying a faint, ghostly melody, as if Tammi and Marvin were singing together one last time. Number 8. Shorty Long, the man who died in the water, and the final curse. If the deaths before still left doubt, then Shorty Long's made the Motown curse undeniable and terrifying. No cancer, no drugs, no suicide. Just a late-night fishing trip, and then a man gone beneath the Detroit River, where the city lights shimmered like 1,000 eyes watching. Shorty Long didn't look like a star, but he had the soul of a genius. He was the first at Motown to write, arrange, and record his own songs, a true musician in an era when most artists were only voices. He wrote Devil with the Blue Dress On and Function at the Junction, the songs that paved the way for soul funk, the very sound later credited to Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. But while Shorty lived, his name rarely appeared on record sleeves. Berry Gordy called him too eccentric, too hard to control. Shorty began voicing his anger publicly. In meetings, he questioned why Diana Ross, Smokey Robinson, and Marvin Gaye always received top promotion while artists like him were pushed aside. Some said he once shouted, "If I can't be heard here, I'll take my music somewhere else." In Motown, that kind of statement was a death sentence. On the night of June 29, 1969, Shorty Long left home in Detroit with a friend, saying they were going fishing. The sky was calm, no sign of storms. But by morning, their small boat was found drifting near Belle Isle, capsized, no one aboard. 2 days later, Shorty's body was recovered miles downstream, bruises on his forehead and shoulders, as if beaten before falling into the water. The police report simply read, "Accidental drowning due to loss of balance." But witnesses at the dock claimed they heard arguing before the boat departed. His family demanded a new investigation. They said Shorty couldn't swim, and he never went fishing at night. The case file was sent to the Detroit police office and then vanished. Only one copy remained in the hands of his widow, with a scrawled note. No evidence of foul play. His funeral was held on July 8, 1969, small, quiet, without a single representative from Motown. Berry Gordy sent no flowers, made no speech, offered no condolences. Local radio stations refused to play his music, a strange silence for the death of a Motown artist. Friends said they felt afraid, as if something nameless had descended upon them all. Just weeks before his death, Shorty had said during a recording session, "At Motown, my voice belongs to them, and so does my silence." He had recorded a test track titled "Ain't No Justice," but it disappeared from Motown's archives after his death and has never been found. They say he died in the water, but the truth is he was already dead, killed by imposed silence, by the despair of a man who knew too much and was forbidden to speak. And when the Detroit River closed over his body, it felt as if the entire city understood. The Motown curse didn't just take lives, it took the voices of those who created it. Because in the end, no one dared to speak again. 8 names, 8 deaths. All had once walked out of Motown, and none lived to tell the story. They built the soul of music, only to be swallowed by the darkness it cast. Some died in hospitals, some in cars, some beneath the river. But the one thing they shared, they all disappeared after daring to say no. Was Motown merely a record label, or a pact that could never be broken? Perhaps the curse was never in the music, but in the power that consumed the souls behind it. And perhaps the price of freedom was death itself. Leave a comment if you believe this curse is real, and don't forget to subscribe, because next time we'll go even deeper into the dark side of the legend called Motown.